Hey guys, Comet here. Welcome to episode 18 in my Spaced Out series. Now in the last episode, I wasted a lot of time making this deep freezer, which I thought was completely necessary. But as it turns out, and a lot of people let me know this, thank you, a vacuum still works when preserving food. So the temperature of the food is actually irrelevant to the preservation. It's only the environment that it cares about. So to perfectly preserve food now, it needs to be in an environment that is below 18 degrees and in an environment that is not oxygen or polluted oxygen. And so what I have here, it does satisfy both conditions. The hydrogen is below -18, but a vacuum does satisfy that condition. It's a sterile gas because it's not oxygen or polluted oxygen. So it's technically not a gas because it's a vacuum, but it works as a sterile gas in that regards. And a vacuum can't have any temperature, so the game always just assumes that a vacuum is absolute zero, which is below the -18 for a deep freeze. And I guess it was just a misread on my part, or maybe it just wasn't explained very clearly in the patch notes. I thought that the food itself had to be below -18, but it's only the environment. So this whole thing here will keep working for me, and I think I might keep using it just because it's already here. And I like how I can ration out the food with these meters. That makes sending food over to this planetoid very simple. Now I probably should have gone over this in the last video, but the way you calculate how much these need to be set to, depending on what food you're sending. Let me do an example with barbecue here. So there are 4,000 calories per kilogram of barbecue, and that's enough to feed 4 duplicants for 1 day. Now I have 8 duplicants here, and 4 back over here. So if I want to send barbecue in this loader, if one piece of barbecue can feed 4 dupes, then in order to feed all 12, I would need 3 pieces of barbecue. So in here, I'm going to change the limit to 3, and then over here, one of those, so 1/3 of it, is going to go over to the other planetoid. And if we watch this, it'll send the barbecue. On this pipe right here, or on this rail right here, there's 2,000 grams of barbecue. And on this one up here, there's 1,000 grams. And according to this, 1 kilogram is 4,000 calories. If I find a dupe here, and we look at their change per cycle, they will eat 1,000 calories per cycle. Now, some duplicants have the bottomless stomach buff, or trait, and that will cause them to consume more calories, so just take that into consideration if you're doing this calculation. And if I were to change this to a vacuum, then the machines in here would overheat, so I'm just going to leave this for now. But what I need to get done, if you notice here, everything is out of power. That's because I'm trying to do some atomic research, and these things take a lot of power. But there's been a couple mentions of wheezeworts providing radiation, so I think I will try some of those, because if I look at my resources here, I think I have some wheezewort seeds from the printing pod. Yes, I've got 10 seeds. But before I put those in, I need more power. So what I want to do is come down to the bottom of the base here and put in some petroleum generators. So if I come back over to this planetoid, I want 1 pipe's worth of petroleum, because that's the max I can send through this teleporter here, which is 5 generators here. And I'll leave the rest of the machines here. That also means I'm going to need to send some slicksters back. so that they can eat up all that carbon dioxide. So if I come back to this that I made a while back in Excel, I can see just how many slicksters I'm going to need off of the one pipe of petroleum. So if I change this number here in the petroleum generators to 5, you can see that makes 2545 grams per second of carbon dioxide, and 2545 divided by the 33.3 a slickster can eat. This is saying I'm going to need somewhere around 75 slicksters. And if I put the max of 8 per farm, then I would need 9 slickster farms. Well, that would be an amazing amount of food for both planetoids if I could get that going. And it would be a lot simpler if I could use molten slicksters. That way I could just pump the petroleum back into the generators rather than regular slicksters, because then I'd have to convert the crude oil into petroleum, and then that makes natural gas. But that means I'm going to need to make this room at least 75 degrees Celsius. So I think I'll start right about here. Now, 9 slickster farms is kind of insane. That would put me all the way up to here, just for farming slicksters. I think what I'll do is have a seed farm, and then a kind of room where I just throw all the eggs that's separate from the seeder farm. That way I could have 9 floors worth of slicksters, but only maintain 1 floor. And so I'll compress the other 8 into 1. That way they're still there eating the carbon dioxide, but my duplicants won't have to maintain them. So I'm going to want some space for steam turbines on top. And the amount of polluted water that 5 petroleum generators can make is 750, which is only 2 steam turbines worth of clean water. So I think the size on this is actually going to be regulated by the farm, which is 24 tiles. So then the generators can fit up here in this section with a couple of extra batteries. Then the steam turbines could go in the center. Let's see, how long is this? 26? 26. So in 13 tiles from both sides. So right there. Oh no. That's not good. I was able to make rock gas? I have never made rock gas before. That's gaseous magma. Oops. I guess I should deconstruct these before I break something else. Then the hottest part of this entire thing should be the bottom down here. So I'm going to put the aqua tuner in the bottom, where all the slicksters are. Now to maintain the correct number of slicksters in this upper farm, I think I only need 1 incubator. Now I'm going to need to control when the steam turbines start pulling some steam out of here. So I think I will take a reading from right here. If there's steam down to this level, and it's at some specified pressure, the steam turbines will run. So I'll use an AND gate and connect it into here, because I need something in here for the petroleum generators to give their heat off too. Otherwise, if the steam turbines end up pulling a vacuum in this room, then the petroleum generators will start to overheat, because there's not enough gas around them to absorb that heat. Okay, now this is ready for the petroleum. It's not quite ready for the slicksters yet, so I've got to run a really long pipe down through the center of the map here. And this is just a mess. Maybe I could come down over here. Like that. Okay, well for now, yeah, I'll just pull off of this line. Just to get some heat over here. And I think I might put in a transit tube access rather than a vacuum liquid lock. Although a vacuum liquid lock would help with the heat through this conductive joint plate. So if I do something like this, where there's a blob of crude oil here and a blob of crude oil here, and then this space in here, if it's a vacuum, heat can only escape through the insulated tiling, and since I'm using Mafic, it's basically non-existent. That way my dupes can still get in and out to maintain the slicksters, but no heat can get out. Now I need to get the cooling loop filled up with some coolant, and I think I'm just going to use water. It's the liquid with the highest specific heat capacity at the moment. And that's how you get the most efficiency out of aqua tuners, is just using something with high specific heat capacity. Unless you really need something that can go down to low temperatures like I was needed over here. So if the water flowing through this is ever above 15 degrees, this aqua tuner will run. So it's actually just going to cool off this area up here, which I'm fine with. I kind of need the extra heat to be put into this room anyway. Okay, but now all of these are connected up to the grid. So I can start using some Wheezeworts to get some atomic research done. And I think the magic number is 4. So if I get the collider here... Let's see, a Wheezewort stands 2 blocks tall. So I need to use a farm plot. And then I'll put some Radbolt generators here. With a reflector. And I'll get all of this powered up. So let me get some Wheezeworts planted here. And all of this extra phosphorite will finally go to use. Wow, these are collecting Radbolts. Cool. I wonder how bad this is for my dupes, though. Slight hazard. Okay. Barely safe. Mostly safe. So Gosman stands right here. I think. I'll have to wait for her to come over here, see where she stands. Oh, I gotta make sure these are facing the right way, though. There we go. Otherwise they're just gonna shoot up into here. And I have been advised that the little Radbolt that shoots out of these can injure duplicants, so I need to watch out for that. Let's go ahead and queue up some research here, if it will ever load. There it goes. Radiation protection. Actually, you know what? Let me just go all the way to here. Okay, so she stands here where it is mostly safe, so she's fine. And I want to get these generators to run if the batteries ever fall below 30%. And I'll have them turn off once it's above 70. So these will keep the atomic collider going. So it looks like Gosman was struck with a couple of Radbolts while I wasn't paying attention. And I think I remember someone mentioning this. But if I put a motion sensor right here, then I can control whether or not these will emit their Radbolts. That way, when Gosman comes over here to do some research, these will wait for her to leave before shooting back out. Ow, but with the way I have it set up right now, it will do the exact opposite of what I want it to do. So I need to use a NOT gate. So this is warm enough for slicksters in here. It's above the 75 minimum, but I want to wait until this is completely carbon dioxide, once these have made enough to force out all of the oxygen that's in here. And then I'll go ahead and ship over the slicksters. So I think that might actually have to happen in the next episode. Gosman's still working on the atomic research here. And I will eventually have this whole tree researched. I'm gonna have to send her back into space, though, to do the orbital research of these branches. So it definitely looks like Wheezeworts are the easier way to go, rather than putting it in space. But I guess if you don't have Wheezeworts, you kinda have to put it in space. Ooh, and I also said I wanted to look at the botanical analyzer in this episode. So I'll go ahead and throw one of these in and see what it does. It needs strange seeds. Huh. Can I look that up? It doesn't look like it even exists in the database. It doesn't even look like it's in the wiki yet. So I guess that's still a work in progress. So I don't need this. Maybe I'll come across it later as I progress through all the different planetoids. So Gosman's finished the monuments research. Now I need to get her back into space to do the rest of these. So I'll send this off into orbit. But I need to get some food storage in here. And with my current setup, that might be a little too difficult. I'll just call her back once she runs out of food. So I'll get her going on all of this. And it's gonna take her quite a long time, and it's kinda boring. She just does some random stuff here. So I think that might be a good place to end the episode. I was able to relocate the petroleum generators over to here. I haven't quite relocated the... Oh, I guess there's some research she just completed. Yeah, that was quick. But back to what I was saying here. I haven't quite moved all of the slicksters over yet. I think the plan is just to ship over some of these guys' eggs in the conveyor loader here. And I'm gonna have to redo all of this to compensate for the lack of petroleum, because the majority of the petroleum is gonna be going over to Yakini instead. And I've actually been thinking about what I want to do down here for a while. And once I get the petroleum boiler going, it doesn't require any duplicant labor with the oil refinery. So I think I could actually bring all of these dupes back to Yakini, and this planetoid would be kind of its own self-sustaining petroleum supplier, completely automated, that sends all of its resources back over to Yakini. I'm just not sure what to do with all of the magma down here. I think maybe once I build up a lot more crude oil, I'll just remove all of the abyssalite and see what happens. It might be a mess. But I do have this high-velocity transport now, so I could throw solids, liquids, and gases between planetoids. So that might make things a little bit easier. I could throw all of the petroleum over here instead of running it through some piping. So the next episode will probably be the relocation of the slicksters, and I'll go ahead and calculate out exactly how much power needs to stay at this planetoid here to ensure the whole crude oil gathering and refining process is completely automated. And then all of the petroleum after that can go into Yakini, where I'll store everything. So this will be just a really simple outpost, with its only purpose being to gather petroleum. So I may make a small sour gas boiler over here to power the petroleum boiler that sends all of the petroleum over to Yakini. And rather than having slicksters over here to consume the carbon dioxide from the sour gas boiler, I'll probably just vent it into space. And then any polluted water it makes can be sent into steam turbines or a water sieve. No, it has to be steam turbines. That's the only way to completely automate it. Because a duplicant would have to come over to refill the water sieve. Unless I ship sand over. That seems more complicated than just having steam turbines, though. Well, no, hang on a second. The payload opener, it does require duplicant labor. Unpacks interplanetary payloads delivered by duplicants. I don't know, maybe I'll play around with these in the next episode. So I do have some big things planned out up ahead. If you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing, and if you did enjoy the video, let everyone know by hitting that like button. But anyway, thanks for watching, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next episode.